Greetings ladies and mental gents, and welcome to my channel, where I like to make audio narrations of various stories from the internet. In this video we will be focusing on a story from the subreddit HFY, called Food for Thought Part 8, written by Level 25 Human Nerd. A link to the original story will be in the description down below, and, as always, I hope that you enjoy. On behalf of our Martian Colonial Administration Office and the Lycia Citizens Constabulary, it is with great pleasure that we welcome you to the Laker Station Settlement, Olympus Mons Colony. We hope your stay with us is a pleasant one, whether visiting for business, pleasure, or joining our proud and friendly community permanently as a new citizen. While within the settlement, the MCAO and LCC ask that all travelers be aware of the colonial and settlement laws and regulations and be mindful of the UCH military properties. If approached by UCH military police, Martian colonial security, or settlement constables, please remain calm, cooperative, and compliant to all requests for relocation or information. These security officers are concerned for your safety and that of the community, and have your best interests in mind. Thank you for your cooperation and understanding once again. Welcome to the Lyca Settlement. Automated welcome message, Lyca Station, Olympus Mons Colony, Mars. The next day, Alex was up bright and early. He had a few hours before he was to start his duties as the staff cook officially, and he had been thinking hard on what to start with. The pit keepers had been focusing on their steak cooking methods, and if the crew's attitude was anything to go by, they were getting better. He wasn't lacking for options in any case. The Sabari tended to keep as much of their meat on hand as possible, only throwing out parts that were wholly inedible. The cultural database that he had access to detailed dishes that used everything from the hearts and livers to other edible organs. The dishes themselves were similar to many prepared on Earth, but seasoning was apparently nigh non-existent, thanks to the fact that the Sabari homeworld most plants had evolved into two categories, medicinal or deadly. Naturally, this meant that any dishes created with the reptilian aliens relied solely on natural flavors of the meat itself. Stews and soups were watery and bland, roasts were grilled cuts with tough and bland. Everything else was just plain bland. As his morning jog brought him to the hangar where his equipment was being stored, Alexander settled in on the recipe that had got him through college and later basic. His dad's prize-winning chili, without fresh vegetables ready to go on his canned supplies being limited, he'd have to adjust the recipe a bit to make things last. Unfortunately, that meant excluding the beans for now. It was an odd thing. Chili without beans. It was like a spaghetti without meatballs, popcorn without butter, pizza without cheese, pancakes without syrup. It was unheard of. A culinary abomination. And here was this preparing to teach a bunch of alien sentient raptors how to make it right. Alex made the mental note to put in a proper request to have dry kidney beans delivered as soon as the chance presented itself. The good news was they had a ton of chili powder and cayenne pepper, half-ton of each technically, a few crates of diced tomatoes and paste, and the dehydrated onion flakes would do fine until he could get his first harvest out of the hydroponics kit. When the human stepped into the hangar proper, he was greeted by the engineering alpha with a salute and a curl of the tail that Alex was beginning to recognize as a sign of happiness. He returned the salute with a smile, and he approached as the male spoke up. "Warm Pathos, Dread Alpha, it pleases me to see that you have regained your honor. And to you, Alpha, it was never lost to me as far as I was concerned. I was hoping that I could put in a request for some things to be brought into the main feeding den and the services from your engineers." The Alpha nodded. "Of course. Come, I'll show you." It took a solid hour for Alex to finish making the requests, even with the Alpha helping him navigate the Sabari paperwork and filing system. In a way, it was comforting to know that even across species, red tape was an universally annoying concept. The Alpha was curious about some of the requests, but happy to approve them on the spot once he learned that it meant more variety would be coming to the meals. With the engineers in tow and a few harbor crates loaded with supplies, the human's next stop was the main feeding den. The moment he walked in, he spotted Snetchel's pack eating nearby, and he briefly worried that they might think different of him after he happened with the rest, as he was glad to see them light up once they spotted him. He offered a nod and a salute, giving his friends a look that said he'd talk to them about it later. And the sight of his rank patch being worn resulted in a chorus of salutes in reply and a path being cleared through the crowd. "Attention crew and pit keepers," he barked, drawing attention from everyone present. "This den is being temporarily closed off for a refit. Finish your meals and clear the room." The reaction was instant. Everyone rushed to finish up, stuffing their faces quickly, or hurrying to stack their trays for cleaning. He felt a little bad for pulling rank, but he needed to get to work and the area needed to be emptied. Thankfully, no one seemed to be too upset about the order. Once all the diners were out, he closed the door and got to work directing the pit keepers to help set up the processing equipment while the engineers worked on removing the grilling plates from one of the pits. Alex helped where he could, but he found himself acting as a supervisor more often than not. The gear being moved was simply too heavy for a human to be much help moving it. A curved wall opposite the door was designated as a prep area, counters being installed along the tool racks, cleaning stations, and a few of the bigger gears sent with him, primary among them being an oversized meat grinding unit. And finally, this unit will not speak. Alex finished as he read from the safety primer. And before you ask, yes, this is a necessary addition to include. A couple years ago, a transport lost power mid-jump and was left adrift. One of the Marines started hearing voices from the ship's grinding unit, asking to be fed. Thankfully, no one was hurt, he said, giving the machine a pat. It was an old story that changed every time it was told, but no one really knew why the disclaimer had to be repeated 3 times. It was fun to theorize. Once the portable generator was set up, Alexander turned his attention to the supplies and ingredients. He went down the list of spices and herbs, letting the Sabari taste a bit of each, partly to help the keepers learn what was what and how to use it, but also to help himself to get a better idea of how they reacted to it. The spicier seasonings were the most popular, with the savory herbs regarding with a curious interest. It seemed that much like Earth's reptiles, capsaicin and similar chemicals tasted sweet to the aliens. But now the pit keepers were well and truly invested in a learning experience, eager to find out what the human was going to show them next. It was unsurprising then that the idea of meat-centric soup was met with an eager agreement from the staff. To that end, he led them to the modified pit and showed them the pride and joy. Half buried in the coals near the edge of the pit was a 55-gallon iron pot. This is your chili pot. Eventually I'm going to try and give a couple more put in later, but for now this one will be for the bridge crew. Chili is an easy dish to make. Put ground meat in a pot, stir until the meat is browned, and then add the rest of your ingredients in and keep stirring until done. Stepping over to one of the remaining crates, Alex dug around a little before pulling out a long, broad-paddled boat oar, which is where this comes in. This paddle has stirred many bonfire dish over the years, and now I bestow it upon you. He walked over to the pit chief, holding the oar forward as if presenting a blade. Treat it well, and it'll bless your soups, stews, and chilies with greatness for as long as you cook. The Sabari accepted the gift with a reverent look, nodding her thanks as she examined the wooden object carefully. Alex smirked and clapped his hands together. All right, folks, let's get cooking. On the bridge, the shipmaster watched as the planet Selenthalus drifted into view with the dreadnought made its way around one of the gas giants that shared the system. He felt an ache in his chest from the sight. The thought of their mission here filled him with equal parts excitement and anxiety. He dreaded the memories that his orders dredged up. He was all too happy to finally see justice done, to see the coward and his ilk burn for the dishonor that they had. Shipmaster, we've made contact. Vessel holding position in orbit around Selenthalus moon. Identifying. Human escort ship. Designation Shahrazad. Good. Hail the human vessel and move to join them. Keep us in the shadow of the moon if possible. Shipkeeper Hashalara. Sound the general alert and call Warpax, Dara, Gistic, and Jeshral to the bridge for assignment. By your will, Shipmaster. Thuris nodded and sat back, and the announcements were made, and his orders put into motion. He was proud of his crew, his troops. His tail began to ache again, as he looked back at the world ahead. There was honor to be had there. He only hoped that his daughter had the clarity of mind to still find it. Alex was in the middle of discussing an idea of sanitation in the kitchen when the comm system suddenly boomed to life. ordering various packs and personnel to their posts. He had almost forgotten that this was a warship, and his Sabari counterparts explained that they had nothing to worry about. As cooks, their place was here doing their jobs. The soldier and the human wanted to head to the armory to gear up, but he simply gave a nod and continued his explanations. He found it interesting, and a little worrying at first, that the Sabari didn't do much in regards to preventing food contamination between the slaughter and cooking. This was explained twofold. Firstly, the predominant climate of the Sabari homeworld was a hotbed of microorganisms. Their evolution had granted them a powerful immune system and a digestive tract designed to kill anything that wasn't useful to survive. It reminded him of living in a trash compactor that were gators back home. It also explained the mercury scare. Such compounds simply weren't natural occurring in their diets, so they were far more susceptible to being poisoned that way, as their bodies couldn't kill the heavy metal compound. The second reason he learned also turned out to be the main reason for overcooking. Anything that might get them sick tended to die in high heat. The more precise understanding that meat didn't have to be cooked dry was still considered safe had been quite a boon to the pit keepers. After the general alarm fell silent, those who were off duty began filtering in to grab a meal before the fighting started. It was from them that Alex heard what was going on. The whole reason that the Blood of Many had been deployed to the sector of space was to hunt down a den of pirates and smugglers that had been harassing the trade in the area. Apparently, the pirates' home base had been located and the ship was preparing to raid the facility. He also heard that some of the crew that Reklo had been spotted in uniform, with her dishonor worn clear as day. He was told that she would be seen wearing not her dread alpha mark, but that of the pack beta, along with the mark of shame staining her crest feathers. The young officer felt a light pang of regret as he helped serve the newcomers. He wondered if there was anything that he could have done to help, anything that he could have tried to get a different outcome. No, Alex, it's no different from a fleet. A soldier screws up, they suffer for it. No room on a ship for rash actions and raw emotions. He'd talk to Reklo when the time was right, not before. She'd come to him, maybe. When the call came in from the bridge for the captain's meal some time later, Alex pulled off his apron and had two of the other cooks haul a pot of chili onto a cart with some large bowls. Grabbing some extra seasoning just in case, he began making his way up through the massive ship. Rumors of the interrogation and how he had apparently consumed food containing lethal poison, and not only survived with his honor and life intact, but complained about the lack of additives to the food, had apparently earned him a decent amount of respect amongst the crew, and despite the general alert, he was greeted with salutes as well as wishes as he pushed the floating cargo platform through the wide corridors and lifts. End of Part 8. If you enjoyed this story and wish to support the author, the link is down below. If you would like to support this channel, there are numerous ways to do so. They will also be listed in the description down below. But the easiest way to help this channel is to share it, subscribe, and like. And, as always, I will see you all in the next video, and I hope that you have a good one. Cheers!